He said, thus you shall know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh your Elohim disciplines you. So we need to know in our hearts that discipline is a part of this, but we don't like discipline. We don't embrace it. We don't look forward to it. We don't want to be disciplined or corrected. And I can tell you one of the biggest problems in the body is that the body, generally speaking, is not correctable. What do I mean by that? I mean that if I were to correct somebody, or any of you were to correct somebody, they generally will get upset, offended, defensive, and everything. You can't correct people. People will not receive. A lot of people have quit the congregations I've worked with because at some point correction was involved and they couldn't handle it. I'm not saying because I was right or they were right, meaning they just couldn't even just deal with the fact that even an attempt to correct was made. That's a maturity problem. Okay? I've had people in the past say to me, oh, I'd love to volunteer and do some things and help you guys, or they've noticed that I've had other people help me and not them, and they're like, well, how come you have so-and-so doing what I volunteered for that months ago? And I can't even tell them because I can't correct you. In other words, at some point, if you're working for somebody, anybody, if you're working for me, you're working for anybody, at some point you're probably going to do something different than the way they want it done. Not necessarily that it was wrong. Maybe you'll actually do something that's actually wrong. It doesn't matter. Wrong or maybe just different than the way they wanted it. And then they're going to have to sit down and talk to you and say, that was not exactly how I wanted it. I really want it this way. And I've seen people have an absolute meltdown and break down and be depressed and be upset and feel like they were yelled at and scolded just because I said, actually, I'd rather you do it a different way. But I can't have them work, because sometimes people say, why don't you have more people help you with stuff? I don't have enough people that I feel confident if I correct them, they will handle it. By the way, when I say correct them, that doesn't mean we're talking about Torah now, and we're not even talking about, I'm talking about just if I want you to help me with anything. Okay, it doesn't matter. It could be loading the car, working with the CDs, setting up the room. It could be anything. Okay, so let's say you get all excited, you show up early, and you're setting up the chairs, but it's not the way I wanted them. And I come up to you and say, look, I appreciate what you did, but that's not the way I want them. I need you to fix it or change it. Or I had a person one time years ago thinking they were helping, and I appreciated that, loading my car for me, because I used to have to drive from services in Knoxville to services in Nashville every week. And the way we had it back then is that we had a lot of breakable things like an overhead projector with the delicate light bulbs and all that stuff. And we had a lot of big audio tapes that had to fit. Everything had to fit in the car in a way that it would all be on one layer so nothing would slide over and break. Because driving from Knoxville to Nashville, you're going through winding roads through the mountains. And so these people started loading up the truck for me, the van for me. And then I came out and saw that it wasn't the way I wanted it because it wasn't going to sit right. It was going to slide around and everything. And I said, because I had told them, don't put anything in the truck, just leave it on the street next to it, I'll put it in. And so I came out there and I was like, and I got to understand, I was on a timetable, so I had to undo the whole thing and redo it. And they got all mad at me because they didn't follow my directions and I got upset with them. You see, the body's not mature enough to handle correction. Okay? So what about when it's actually Torah observant issues? What about when it's the Father trying to correct you? Are you correctable? I mean, that's the maturity issue. He says, look, you got to know in your heart, you got to know deep down in your heart that discipline is a loving thing from the Father. That as a father corrects his son, Elohim will discipline you. But are you wanting or desiring or ready for discipline? Most people, they get any kind of discipline, they decide to turn tail and run and never come back again instead of dealing with the issue. Well, I don't like that you corrected me or this or that, or I'm embarrassed. So then let's work with it, grow up, and go move forward. I mean, we have to get the pacifier out of the mouth and take the dirty diapers off and stand up and put our pants on and whatever, or let's be adults.